The Baltimore Ravens have officially lost Nnamdi Madubuike for an extended period of time, and he wasn't the only Baltimore Ravens interior defensive lineman to have a move made on him. We talk about that and so much more coming up on this Instant Reaction live edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here on this Saturday bonus instant reaction live edition, like 3 different versions of Locked On Ravens, but essentially we're instantly reacting to Nnamdi Madubuike and Broderick Washington. We'll talk about what happened to those two, but if you already know what happened, I mean, it's been out there for a little while now, but I wanted to hop on here, talk about that. So thank you so much for making us a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day. And thank you out there to all the everydayers, first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. Again, jam-packed show as Nnamdi Madubuike was lost officially for an extended period of time. We'll dive into what the move was, what it means, and, not necessarily totally speculating, but talking about how other guys now need to step up because the move is official. We'll also talk about multiple defensive linemen. It wasn't just Madubuike who hit injured reserve, which was the move for the Ravens. So we'll talk about that in the second part of the show. And then finally, we'll get into some Ravens updates. I have a couple of actually clips that I found that I wasn't able to talk about on Friday or this morning. We did a bonus episode on Keaton Mitchell. He broke his silence on being benched. So if you don't know what he said, be sure to check out the bonus episode from this morning. Really appreciate it again. We're just diving into it. Ravens news continues to fly in fast and furious. So I know whether we're live at about 5 p.m. on Saturday. So I know that people might be watching some college football, getting ready to go out or have a good time on a Saturday night before the game. So I appreciate you taking a little time to hang out with me. And if you're watching live or after the fact, listening after the fact, we're 5 days a week here, plus more of daily Ravens coverage. And see, we already got some people in the chat. We got First here from media here. Yeah, we got Vontae. IR is not good news. So we'll miss at least 4 games. So we'll dive into that as well. Let's just talk about it. Nnamdi officially on injured reserve. He will miss the next 4 games. But this is a situation where the actual news itself, I think the consensus is that, okay, it's not career ending. Like that's the big thing, is there wasn't that announcement. And that's a good thing, right? We don't know. This is not like a final, all right, the situation's over here. I still think we don't know if Nnamdi's going to come back this season. We don't know if he's not going to come back this season. What it does mean, what we know for certain, is he will miss the next 4 games. So looking at the Ravens schedule here, he's going to miss this game against the Chiefs. We knew that. John Harbaugh ruled him out on Wednesday for that. And we knew that, it was probably going to be a little more time than just the Chiefs game. So it's the Chiefs, the Texans, the Rams, and the Ravens actually have their bye, and then it's the Bears. So Nnamdi will essentially get 5 weeks of recovery here. And so the earliest he can return is against the Dolphins in week number 9. So it's possible he comes back then. It's also possible he doesn't. Again, this is not the final update we're going to get here on Nnamdi Madubuike. There are still a lot of outcomes and situations. And again, I'm not going to speculate on what the injury is or, what specific thing is going on, because we don't know. We just genuinely don't. But how important Madubuike is to this team is not a question. He's one of the most important defenders that the Ravens have, especially because we know how bad the pass rush has been so far this season. And even though Nnamdi was their best pass rusher by far, he was racking up some stats. He had 2 sacks in 2 games. They just have not been getting home to the quarterback. And without having Nnamdi there, especially to even take advantage of Broderick, or even Broderick, but Travis Jones, I'd say Travis getting double teamed and, the whole 9 yards there. When Travis is not on, when Nnamdi is not there, you're in a really tough spot on the interior. And I want to say this, the pass rush is not just on the interior guys, obviously. The outside linebackers haven't been performing this season. The Ravens have 3 sacks, 2 of them obviously from Madubuike, as I said, but then the last one from Tavius Robinson. So we know that Kyle Van Noy has been out. We know that Dafe Owe hasn't necessarily gotten a full complement of snaps, and that's actually curious to me. I'm not necessarily sure what the situation with Dafe is right now, but now without Nnamdi, you're going to have to put together, I guess, like a ragtag team of guys right now. So there were other moves. Obviously, the Ravens made a couple of corresponding ones because it wasn't just Nnamdi. We'll talk about that in the second part of the show a little bit more. But Brent Urban has officially been signed to the active roster. So he will be the replacement essentially on the roster for Nnamdi. Zaire Mitchell-Patton was also promoted to the 53-man because of the fact that the Ravens ran out of elevations for him. You're only allowed to be elevated 3 times from the practice squad, and the Ravens used those up in the first 3 weeks of the season. So they could not activate him for a 4th week. And obviously with Patrick Ricard being out in this game for the Chiefs, at least, and for whoever knows how long still, Zaire is going to be a big part of that. He has been the first 3 weeks of the year. They also elevated CJ Okoye and Josh Tupou from the practice squad to the active roster for the Chiefs game in particular. We know the Ravens made moves for Tupou and Taven Bryan. Okoye flashed in the preseason, so he's someone that's exciting. But yeah, now you're in a bit of a tough spot. And the thing with the Nnamdi situation, I'll read off these stats that Jonas Schaefer just put out here, just comparing the Ravens defense with and without Maudubike on the field versus off the field. On the field, the Ravens with Nnamdi there have allowed 4.3 yards per carry and have had a 36.8% pressure rate. With Nnamdi off the field, 6.3 yards per carry and 27.9% pressure rate. So essentially they're giving up 2 more yards per carry without Nnamdi out there, as well as dropping about 10 percentage points, I guess 9 percentage points in terms of pressure rate. So that's just one player who is making that impact. And it goes to show the rest of the team is not performing there. And look, I put out the pass rush stats a couple days ago. I'll find it here quickly. I got to scroll a little bit because there's been so much other stuff that's been going on, but the pass rush is essentially a bottom 3 unit there. Like, it is a bottom 3 pass rush that the Ravens have right now. And that's just not going to get it done, especially not against some of these teams like the Chiefs offense, for example. We can just put this because that's who the Ravens are playing tomorrow. The Chiefs offense has not been good this season, but if you allow Patrick Mahomes to sit back in the pocket and just go through his reads, he will slice and dice through. I don't care who he's throwing to. I don't care who his offensive line is. If you cannot get there, you're going to have a bad day against most of these good, talented quarterbacks. The Ravens right now, I found it, they're 30th in pressure percentage, 14.4%. They're tied for 30th in sacks with the 3 that we talked about earlier. But they're also not blitzing a lot either. They're 30th in blitzing percentage with 12.1%. I think that Zach Orr has to get more aggressive there. Now, there's a risk to that because if you send that pressure, we saw that a couple of times against Detroit. You send a corner blitz or you send a guy up the middle and that pressure does not immediately get home, well, you're in a heap of trouble because it'll either be one-on-one coverage and a guy can either break it to the outside or cut back in, or even if it's Mahomes, for example, tomorrow, he can throw it to a check down option. So you have to get there with that pressure immediately. If you don't do that on a blitz, these top quarterbacks like Lamar, Allen, Mahomes, they're really hard to blitz because of that. And plus their ability to get out of the pocket, move around and whatnot. But you also can't just sit there and continue to rush 4 guys like they have been in a lot of these situations and just see no pressure. It feels like we're back in like 2021 with this, where they're missing, like they had the 20 missed tackles against the Lions that was charted by, I think that was Next Gen Stats who had that charted. We're back in like 2021, 2022, and they were missing tackles left and right. They couldn't get pressure without blitzing. And even with the blitzing, they weren't getting pressure. That just, it doesn't do you anything. It doesn't do you anything. So look, you have a lot of outcomes with this Nnamdi situation because, again, just putting him on injured reserve tells us that he's only going to miss the next 4 games. That's all it tells us. Doesn't mean he's going to come back immediately after that Bears game. Doesn't mean that he is out for the season. Again, I think a lot of people, and honestly, like myself, I'm just glad it wasn't, okay, he's definitively out for the season, or definitively this is like a career, like this is messing with his career. This being the update, it's definitely not going to be the only update, as I've been saying, but at least we didn't get that one. It feels like this compared to what the update could have been, is a lot more positive than, just boom, ruled out for the season, boom, career. Like, neck injuries are tough, right? And I've talked about this with Nnamdi. Just not even football, from a human element perspective, those are really scary injuries. I mean, the Ravens went through this with Zach Orr. Zach Orr had to go through this. And Orr talked about how Nnamdi was in good spirits and, he was crushed seeing what he was going through last week and the whole 9 yards, because Orr dealt with that, where he suffered a neck injury. It revealed a condition and Orr had to medically retire. Like, I'd be devastated for Nnamdi if that were to be the case. Again, not just like, oh, the Ravens are losing somebody, but just like from a human, we know Nnamdi loves this game. We know he's, a really competitive player and really good at what he does. But, obviously health comes first, and we still have a long, I don't want to say a long way to go here, but like we're going to have to see how it unfolds. We don't know, but what we do know is that other guys are going to have to step up, because Nnamdi was not the only one that was placed on injured reserve. Coming up in the second part of the show, we'll dive into more updates here, because the Ravens are really hurting on that D-line right now, and they're going to be hurting for the next 4 or 5 weeks. So stay tuned. A lot coming your way on this instant reaction Saturday edition of Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by Square, and this episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And there's a local spot in Baltimore, Fed Hill, Be More Licks, that comes alive every Sunday. Fed Hill is jumping during football season. You got everyone in team colors. The energy is incredible. Feels like the entire area is there cheering together. And those local spots where it makes the neighborhood feel like home, and so many of them run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see ya in the neighborhood. And the show is brought to you by DoorDash. And for DoorDash, you got the weekend here. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Ravens, Rashad Bateman delivered in a big way in that week 3 game. I know it was a tough one for the Ravens losing the Lions, but we were hoping Rashad would get going, and it felt like he and Lamar just clutch catch after clutch catch. The connection was there, and when the pressure was on, Rashad came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Rashad Bateman is on a streak, especially over the course of his career. He's been great. And just like Rashad Bateman delivered for the Ravens, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. Moving right along on this instant reaction Saturday edition of Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you, reacting to the Ravens losing Nnamdi Madubuike for an extended period of time. They officially make the move, putting him on injured reserve. They called up Brent Urban. They called up Jaire Mitchell-Patton. So there are a lot of moving parts here for this Ravens defensive line. We're going to talk about another one here in the second part of the show. Want to remind everyone again, though, we're a 5-day week plus more daily Ravens podcast. So the regular show, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. We got you covered there. And then obviously on the weekends, we do have a lot of headlines to talk about. So when there are headlines to talk about, we do bonus episodes. We, again, had one this morning. Keaton Mitchell broke his silence on his benching, and as you could tell, he isn't necessarily super happy about it. So you can go hear what Keaton had to say. Sam and Njoku and I talked about that. We also do Locked On Ravens watch along. So tomorrow we will be live here during the game, reacting to every single play from a Ravens perspective. So if you want to tune in for that, really would appreciate that. We have a lot of fun on those, even though the results, 1 and 2 is not necessarily fun there, but it's really fun to engage with everybody. We have the instant reaction shows after. We have the Locked On Ravens squad show with myself, Sam and Njoku, and former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail. So much Ravens content here. We got the upgrades going. We got the mic there. We got the new background stuff. Like, everything is moving along really cool and really nicely on Locked On Ravens. Actually under 200 subscribers away now from 15,000, which is incredible. We're actually almost 100 away from 15,000. That's one of the big milestones I've had on this show. But let's get into the other piece of news. Broderick Washington, the Ravens on Wednesday, they were missing everybody from their D-line, right? It was Madubuike, it was Washington, even Travis Jones. Now, Jones returned to practice, and he is still questionable for this game. But, the thing about it is when you lose multiple guys who are big parts of your unit, it's going to always hurt. So Washington also is on injured reserve. He's going to miss at least the next 4 games. He has his ankle, I believe it is, right? Yeah, it was. Jones was the knee, and Washington was the ankle. I knew it. See, I can't second guess myself like that. I know that I'm right on a lot of these things. At least I try to be. So Washington with the ankle injury, he was ruled out, so he wasn't going to play in this game anyway. But on injured reserve, I mean, that's tough. So what they're looking at right now, assuming that Travis Jones plays in this game, their roster, and again, I need to kind of update myself here. So it's going to be Travis Jones, John Jenkins, Aeneas Peebles, Brent Urban are your 4 current active defensive linemen on the interior. And then obviously they called up for week 4, CJ Okoye and Josh Tupou. So they're going to have full complement of guys. It's just not the guys that they started the season with. And, it's going to be tough. I mean, we know that Urban in spots has been good for them. I mean, he's been with them forever, it feels like. It doesn't even feel like he left, to be honest with you, even though he played with three other teams outside of Baltimore. I think Titans, Bears, and Cowboys. So he's been good for them in spots, but look, he's nowhere close to who Nnamdi is as a player. I mean, it's essentially going to be the big swing guy here is Peebles. We can be honest with it. The big swing guy here is Aeneas Peebles. That to me is going to be the guy that flips this for me, because for Travis Jones, even if he's healthy, he's going to continue to see double teams. He's the one threat on that interior line that everybody is aware about, takes on those double teams. He was kind of washed out for the majority of that game against the Lions. So you kind of have to wonder, well, who's that other guy that can step up? I don't think it's going to be a Tupou. I mean, Urban has a play or two in him. I think that he can make an impact, but over the course of a game, John Jenkins, I think, was their second best defender in that Detroit game. So maybe it's him and he just kind of comes onto the scene, but maybe it's just Peebles, And I see that a lot of people are talking right now about Calais Campbell. I see David saying time to get Campbell back. I see Carlos saying Calais looks amazing for the Cards. That's my agenda. If you're listening or watching right now, this is the Locked On Ravens defensive line agenda. It's Calais Campbell. Because that's the move that I think is the most realistic, right? The Cardinals are 2-2 now. I think they're 2-2 now. If they start to slide a little bit, I know that Calais, that's where he started his career, and that's kind of quote unquote home for him. Now bring him home to Baltimore. All right, bring him home to Baltimore. Let him compete. The Ravens need him. They need him because again, everyone's talking about, okay, how can they get in new talent on this line, especially if Nnamdi has to miss more than the 4 games minimum he's required to miss being placed on IR. Everyone's talking about, go out there, get a Dexter Lawrence or a Jeffrey Simmons or one of those top guys, Quinnen Williams. Those guys are going to require first-round picks. And I am all for the Ravens trading picks right now. I think that they should. And honestly, I think if you're John Harbaugh, you should be in Eric DeCosta's ear right now saying, please, Eric, you need to trade these picks, because I think that if the Ravens, again, have a disappointing end of their year, this is the end of the line for John Harbaugh. I just do. That's kind of what I've been saying for the past couple of years here, where if it's a wild card exit, a divisional round exit, you kind of disappoint again, you get kind of phased out of the playoffs. I think it's probably time for Harbaugh there. And if I'm Harbaugh, I'm saying, look, this roster's already great. We're dealing with injuries. It is what it is. For saving my job, please go get me someone that I can put on that interior of the D line. Now, do I think Eric DeCosta does that? I don't think so. I would love it. Dexter Lawrence would be a dream on this Ravens defensive line, an absolute dream. But I'm trying to think of it real. I mean, it's my job to think of this realistically for the Ravens. And while it's fun to speculate, I mean, I do it all the time, bringing everybody to Baltimore, right? That's kind of my thing. I mean, being realistic on it, I feel like Lawrence for a first and maybe a mid-round pick, late-round pick, that's where I would go with this. I just don't see the Ravens doing it, especially when they have to sign so many guys to extensions. They're going to have to rework Lamar's deal and probably give him that extension because of the fact that he has a $70 million cap hit for next year. It's going to be a lot of money. And the Ravens, we know that the strategy is to hit on your picks, right? Get the rookie contracts so you can have 4 or 5 years of elite production, ideally, from guys that are costing you a fraction of what these top guys are costing you. So we're going to see. But right now, the Ravens are in a pretty bad spot with their D-line, and the Chiefs are coming to town with a run game that really hasn't been all that good, an offense that really hasn't been all that good. So I guess it's Chiefs offense has been underperforming versus Ravens defense has been underperforming. It's the clash of the Titans here. I guess it is. And, I see in the chat, I'm trying to keep up. We're getting a lot of comments here, so I apologize if I'm not reading off as much as I have usually done. But I feel like I've seen stuff on Ricard, like Ricard's timeline. I don't know Ricard's timeline right now. I've seen that a couple times, people asking. At this point, like it objectively was a bad move to not put him on injured reserve. Now, obviously, they were holding out hope that he could play. That's the reason they didn't put him on IR. And they say, hey, maybe we can get him back week 3, week 4. If they had known that he missed these first 4 weeks, or they were 100% certain, they would have put him on IR, right? It's not worth having the roster spot taken up by a guy that's not going to play. But, the only explanation for that is the fact that they probably thought he was going to play and he was going to come back sooner. Or they were holding out hope he was. But, he's missing these first 4 games. Could have put him on IR. So, it is what it is in that regard too. It's tough right now because you're looking at this defense, and I'll read off the stats again. I might want to, I say it all the time, reading these stats off. You might want to cover your ears because these defensive stats, they're not what you want to hear. Right now, defensively for the Ravens, they are second to last in points given up at 96. They're 31st. They're last in the league in total yards given up, 32nd there. Right now, they're tied for 21st in terms of turnovers. They are third worst defense in giving up first downs with 70. They're the second worst passing defense in the league right now, giving up 798 yards there, just in the yards category. In the yards category, rushing defense, they're the 30th worst there. So, or 30th best, I guess. So, third worst in the league, giving up the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL. Their conversion rates aren't good. 24th in the league in third down conversion percentage, 28th in the league in red zone conversion percentage. They have to find a way to get this thing on track because, again, you're not going to see offenses like the Browns in the playoffs, right? Like the Browns defense is unbelievably good. That's a all-time unit right there, it feels like so far. But, you're going to be seeing teams like the Bills and the Chiefs and the Lions in January and February instead of, the Browns. You're not going to see that. So they have an opportunity here to go to 2-2. If you fall to 1-3, I don't even want to know what would happen if this team falls to 1-3. 24 hours from now, we might know, or a little bit more than 24 hours from now, or time of this recording, we might know. But, sky's not falling. Again, season's not over. We're only in week 3, heading into week 4 here. But 1-3 is a really tough hole to climb out of. Like it just is. And again, the Ravens are in the same spot they were last year, right? Where the Ravens started 1-2 last season. Now it took them a little different path to get there. They started 0-2 and then, they beat the Cowboys to get to 1-2. This time it was a little different, but we walked into that Bills game in week 4 talking about how that was a must-win game. You can't fall to 1-3. Like it is like all that. Well, here we are again. Here we are again. You're 1-2. You're trying to avoid a 1-3 start. It's going to come down to which team wants it more. Both teams really want it. Both teams are going to play hard. But the Lions went into Baltimore, and especially in the second half, just absolutely obliterated the Ravens, out-physicaled them. Ravens defenders were getting washed out in the ground game. It is what it is. So I'm hoping, I see New Norm saying CJ Okoye be a breakout player. Hey, I like CJ Okoye. I think he has a lot of potential. So I'm hoping he steps up. I'm hoping Brent Urban steps up. But right now we know officially the Ravens lose Nnamdi Madubuike and Broderick Washington for the next 4 games at a minimum. Coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk about just some Ravens updates. I'll answer some questions, and we'll also dive into a little bit of a preview of that Ravens and Chiefs week 4 matchup. So be sure to stay tuned. Got plenty coming your way here on Locked on Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how They craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive, standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Locked On Ravens, Instant Reaction Live. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you, breaking down the Ravens losing Nnamdi Madubuike and Broderick Washington for at least the next 4 weeks. They officially are placed on injured reserve. Appreciate everybody again for being here. It truly means the world to me. Again, just over 100 subscribers away from 15,000 on the YouTube side of things and the audio version side of things. That community is growing each and every single day. So whether you want to watch in video form, listen in audio form, it's the same show. You're not missing out on anything. We will have the Locked On Ravens watch along tomorrow here live during the game. We'll have the instant reaction show after that, and then we'll have the Locked On Ravens squad show after that. So we have like 6 straight hours of content for you during game days on Locked On Ravens. Plus, we'll have our game day episode is tomorrow, so that'll come out 6 a.m. tomorrow morning to get you ready, hyped up for the game. So hopefully the Ravens win that one. And again, we got upgrading the setup here, the microphone, the background. We got the antique penguin. We got the raven. We got the metal crab. We got the crane bird thing in the background. So the audio sounds a lot crisper than it used to too. So investing in this show, because, you know, it means the world to me, all the support here I get on a daily basis here. We got that daily Ravens coverage. So the friend to the family member as well, if they want that perspective, we got them covered. And you can follow me on social media, Chaostricker34 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Now, I want to talk about a couple of different things here, just a few right now. And I also want to ask or answer a couple of questions. So if you have questions, I saw one about Zach Orr from Cam. I'm gonna, let's see. Please talk about Zach Orr. Have someone talk about how his defensive schemes are an amateur level. Who hired him? Yeah, I mean, look, the thing with Zach Orr to me is like, and this is just a play that stuck out to me in the Detroit game personally, or plays. Why are you dropping Mike Green into coverage on like a critical third down in the game? Like, why are you getting cute there? The Ravens just have a problem, in my opinion, with getting way too cute in a lot of these moments, especially high leverage ones, especially important games, right? Important games. Why are we dropping Mike Green into coverage here if you're the Ravens, right? Why are you running a weird rollout play on 4th down? That was the 2-point play in Buffalo. And it's clearly like they need to burn that entire rollout section under the 5-yard line of the playbook. I can't watch it again. You eliminate half of the field. Derrick Henry wide open on that play. Where's Lamar looking? To the side he's rolling out to. You're eliminating that part of the field. You just cannot do that, in my opinion. So I don't know. It's just it's tough. And then I see people asking about Teddy Buchanan. I think Teddy's been fine. I mean, I don't have super high expectations right now for him. I mean, he was someone that wasn't necessarily expected to win that job. I'm not asking Teddy to be perfect. I'm not asking the Ravens to be perfect, if I'm being honest here. Like, I'm not asking this team to go out there and dominate everybody 50-3. Like, that's not what I'm asking. I don't think that's what anybody's asking, right? But, you know, and even if you want to relate it back to Kyle Hamilton's comments, and very controversial about the fan base being spoiled, which again, I think was a very poor choice of words, but I talked about that for 2 straight days on Locked On Ravens. So you can listen to the bonus episode of the one on Friday to have my full opinion on that. But like, this is not a top 10 defense that everyone's like, they need to be the best at everything. Like, no, this is the worst defense in the league. They've underachieved. And again, it's not like losing to the Bills and the Lions is some crazy thing. Like, if you had told me the Ravens were 1-2 heading into week 4 against the Chiefs, I would have been like, yeah, okay, I can probably guess who they lost to and who they beat. But it's how they're losing these games, right? And how they are either finishing them, with the Bills game being the comeback that it was, or the second half of the Lions game being what it was, and missed opportunities. It's the things that the Ravens told us, oh, we're going to fix that. And we know, and we want to be that 2000 Ravens standard defense. Like, this is what it is. That's the concerning part. And like, when you have a stat line like you did against the Lions that's charted, you have 30 pressures charted by PFF given up and 20 missed tackles by Next Gen. I mean, that's really bad. Like, those are things that shouldn't be happening to teams that are contending for a Super Bowl. And again, like, so I had Matt Skura, former Ravens offensive lineman. He was on the show with us on Wednesday. If you haven't checked that out, Matt was awesome. Highly recommend you check that show out. But Matt talked a bit about kind of with the offensive line, right? What's going on there? And he was teammates with Ronnie. He obviously played with Lamar, and the preseason was different, when he was on the team, where it was 4 preseason games. And he kind of attributed it to like, these guys are still trying to figure it out. And yes, they played together last season, the majority of them, but preseason and regular season is a jump. And he kind of talked about that. He said he personally needed the preseason to like go through the game day routines and kind of get into a groove. And so I wouldn't be shocked if next year the Ravens actually play some guys in the preseason for a decent amount of time, because whether it's rust or whatnot, the NFL season does not slow down for you, right? If you're using these couple first weeks of the season as hell, let's get into a groove, that's not the right thing to do, in my opinion. So, man, I think it's going to be an interesting week, because there are a lot of, not even just from a narrative perspective, but other things. Like, for example, Derrick Henry is a big talking point right? Like, he's fumbled in 3 straight games. He only had 3 fumbles all of last season, right? Like, all of that has been a huge conversation point. Well, you have a couple of former players, and Aqib Talib and Cam Newton, kind of questioning Derrick Henry right now and like, what's going on with him. Aqib Talib said, quote, "I don't like how he's hitting the hole. You've got to score from the 1. You've got to run someone over, turn sideways, close your eyes, and just go." Cam Newton said, "I think he's too high. I can't tell that man how to run the ball, but it just doesn't look physical to me. I don't think it looks physical enough to Lamar." The faces and the grunts even Lamar was making, he was almost like, "Why are you calling this with the big old line? Put Derrick Henry behind and push at him." Like, again, trying to figure out ways that they can score. Because let's just be honest, scoring from the 1-yard line when you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry first down, or even just from inside the 5-yard line, should take you probably 3 downs max to do that, right? Let alone you miss on all 4 and aren't able to get the ball in. Like, it's just feels like they're making things harder on themselves. And I want to give credit to Detroit. Like, Detroit beat the Ravens. Usually when we talk about, oh, the Ravens lost, it's, man, the Ravens beat themselves, or like they made these mistakes and that's why they're losing. No, Detroit beat the Ravens, right? Just straight up. And like last year, the Eagles did that. The Browns did that 2 years ago. Like, there's always 1 or 2 games where the Ravens just straight up get outplayed by another team. But for the majority of these games, it's, oh, hey, kicks were missed, turnovers, bad defense. Like, it is what it is. You can tell how frustrated the team is. You can tell that tensions are pretty high right now. And sometimes that can be a good thing when, the team just goes into a place all pissed off and it just go out there and lay it all on the line. That's what they have to do against Kansas City here. Because again, Kansas City on the offensive side of the ball has not been like all that great, at least not anywhere close to what they were at the peak of their powers. I mean, their run game from a sum of their parts is fine. They're 14th in the league in yards per attempt, but like Isaiah Pacheco is averaging 3.7 yards per carry. Kareem Hunt averaging 3.5. Like, the pass offense, again, is like fine. They're 15th, and the Chiefs are pretty healthy right now. So feels like they're going to be all right. But the Ravens are going to have to overcome that. Like, the Ravens aren't healthy. Now, the good part about it is it seems like they'll get back Isaiah Likely for this game. I'm not expecting him to necessarily go out there and, like I said, overtake Mark Andrews, and it'll definitely be a split and not to get eased back in. But Likely is a big part of their offense. They've been missing his athletic ability, the explosiveness, some of the athleticism he does bring to the table there. So, it's tough when you have a start like this, when you have the expectations to do, because you don't want to overcorrect too early into the season. Because again, my personal philosophy, and I've said this on the show if you've been listening or watching, I give it a month, right? I give it 4 weeks. And then I say, all right, this is a really concerning trend, or yeah, they fixed it over the course of those 4 weeks. Like, maybe the first couple weeks weren't good, but then they fixed it. We're approaching very dangerous territory here. We are in week 4. So if the pass rush has another bad game, if, the defense keeps looking, I'll call it uninspired, if the offensive line keeps having it, like Roger Rosengarten hasn't been good through the first 3 weeks, like all that, then those entered like, all right, these are official trends. It's not trending in the right direction, a lot of these things, but 4 weeks will be official trend category. So look, I'm excited for the game. I think it's an opportunity for the Ravens. And I know that the vibes right now are not great. Like, it seems like people aren't necessarily as excited as they would have been had the Ravens, played a little better. And I get that. I understand it. I'm excited because I think that, look, Mahomes Lamar football is always good. and I'm expecting a really good game. Now, how excited will I be after the game ends? That's probably a bit of a different conversation, considering the game could go one way or the other there. But this is an opportunity to prove yourself, right? This show the fan base, the NFL, the world, that you are that team that had, we were calling the best roster in the NFL, best defense, and the best roster Lamar's ever had, like all that, maybe even best roster in franchise history. They have not played that way. We'll see if Jaire is able to play in this game. That's another guy that, maybe will have an impact should he play. Right now, my big concerns on that D-line with Nnamdi Madubuike and brought to Washington, not only out, but on IR. So that's all I have here on this instant reaction live edition of Locked On Ravens on this Saturday. Again, appreciate everyone so much for tuning in today on the weekend, giving me a little bit of your time here, whether you're watching live with us or you're watching or listening after the fact. We'll be back here again tomorrow. We'll have the game day episode at 6 a.m. Eastern time. That'll be our bonus game day episode. And then we will be live during the game, 4 o'clock window. We'll be here reacting to every single play of the Ravens and Chiefs game. Plus, we'll have the instant reaction after that, Locked On Ravens squad show after that. So again, like 6 straight hours of Ravens coverage and content for you on game days. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along in audio form. I will see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.